And now for episode 2. This is still the first chapter, but you notice that the picture there depicts Dean Fitzpatrick on the right, Captain John Leroy Seaforth on the right, lower right. And then, of course, you got Joel on the left, and, of course, Bailey on the left, bottom corner. Now let's continue the read. Bailey looks at them for a second, and with emotional stress in her voice, cries out to both men, "Look, like I said, I'm ill. I'm too sick right now to talk to you. Just go away. Besides, I've already told the police everything I know, and I don't remember anything else. Why can't you all just leave me alone and respect my privacy?" "Miss Wilder, please," comes a softer, enduring voice from a taller man wearing a nice red tie and silver, full-bodied gray hair combed back. Bailey looks up to the man and says pleadingly, "Look, I'm 60 years old. I'm entitled to a little respect and privacy." "Yes, but," objects mildly the silver gray-haired man. "No buts. You people just won't quit with your questions. Please, leave me alone," pleads Bailey, tearfully with irritation as she takes a long look at Joel for help. Joel moves forward and with hands on hips says intrepidly, "I don't appreciate you two men just walking in my house uninvited. I think you both should just go right now. She's been my friend for over 40 years, and when she says she's had enough, she's had enough. So take your ugly faces out of here before I hurt you boys real bad. Now, do as I say and go. She deserves to have a little respect and the dignity to have her wishes respected. So please, respect her wishes and leave now before I have to get ugly with you," concludes Joel with growing annoyance. "She certainly is deserving of respect," replies the tall, silver-haired man. He smiles warmly at Bailey as he moves himself in front of the shorter man with the bow tie. "Thank you," Bailey responds back kindly. The tall man bends slightly to her and makes eye contact as he beams an enduring smile coupled with the bluest eyes she had ever seen. His eyes were both striking and welcoming as he replies softly, "You don't remember me, Miss Wilder, do you?" Bailey takes a second look and does not respond. Then her mouth opens up as she says with a probing inquiry, Captain John Leroy Seaforth." He grins modestly, closes his eyes for a second, and bows slightly to her and says with military chivalry, "At your service, madame." "But why are you here?" asked Bailey, baffled. Both John and her friend look at each other as the shorter man looks over to Joel and says, "Would you excuse us for a second? We need to talk. We need to speak with her alone." Joel looks at Bailey, who shakes her head in agreement. "It's okay, Joel. It'll only be a few minutes." "Fine," says Joel, still slightly miffed with this intrusion, as she slowly studies both of them, looking at them up and down with piercing eyes before she leaves. She concludes with a warning tone and says, "I'll be in the next room, Bailey, if you need me." "Thank you, Joel. I appreciate that. You've always been such a good friend. I don't know what I would have done without you," graciously replies Bailey with a faint smile. Joel looks at her friend and touches her arm and says, "It's okay. I'm not going anywhere. If they make you feel uncomfortable, don't hesitate to holler, and I'll be here lickety-split." She turns to the two men and warns them, "Gentlemen, don't try anything funny. I carry a piece with me at all times, and I'm not afraid to use it." "Heavens, no!" Captain John Leroy Seaforth says in astonishment. We would never, John interrupted by his friend as he puts his hand on John's arm and says, relax, of course we wouldn't. We understand. You have nothing to fear from us. Joelle's suspicions are momentarily pacified as she says with aberrancy, good, as he leaves the room without turning around. So why are you here? Why are you going to, so why are you here? Are you going to take me back to the yacht? Asked Bailey with slight disorientation. I'm afraid not, my dear, Captain John sadly replies. Miss Wilder, do you remember me? Speaks up the shorter man with a growing impatience as he nudges Captain John to one side. Bailey looks at him as if trying to recall who this person is, but unfortunately she is drawing a blank on Notlam, at the dinner table and the yacht. Remember, I was the one with two other gentlemen, Mr. Thomas Nathan Torres and Mr. Christian Shark. He concludes as he folds his hands with certainty, as if that's all it would take to remind him. Bailey's mouth falls open as she says, yes, I remember you. You had more hair then. You're Dean Fitzpatrick. You're the one responsible for creating Superhero Vacation World. Why are you here? We're here to take you back, Dean says with a warm smile. Back to Notlam? Why would I want to go back? Asked Bailey in disbelief. Your family. They're there, and they need you, says John with concern. My family? A Notlam? Repeats Bailey as not believing her ears. Yes, your family. Your husband and daughter and others. They're all there and alive, John replies with a glowing smile. But I thought they were all dead. I just don't remember, apologizes Bailey on the verge of tears again. Trust me, Bailey, they are quite alive, and we need your help to rescue them, implores Captain John as he reaches for his left eye and wipes away a little moisture. Bailey stares in disbelief before them as she mouths the words of, I don't understand. How can they be alive? They both look at each other as if waiting for the other to speak until Dean speaks up and says, what's the last thing you remember on Notlam? Bailey pauses in thought and says slowly, I remember explosions, smoke. I remember helping Brady to find Sword Boy. Then I heard a noise, maybe even a growl. I'm not sure. Then this large creature came into the scene out of nowhere and knocked me down. I remember being carried like a baby in the arms of someone huge. For a second, I thought I heard the sound of Baby Doll, Boxy, and my daughter Marie crying, but I'm not sure. I might have imagined it or dreamed it. You were not dreaming, my dear, eloquently proclaims Captain John Leroy Seaforth, as he stands stoically erect. The captain's right, Bailey Wilder, says Dean in support. You were abducted by a Sasquatch creature. Sas what? Repeats back Bailey, not sure if she heard him correctly. Sasquatch, Bigfoot, restates Dean with clarity. Bigfoot? I don't understand. What would a Bigfoot want with me? Beseeches Bailey, completely perplexed and bothered by the notion as absurd. John and Dean again look at each other, swallow nervously as Dean looks long and hard at John to explain. John catches the cue and says, It may be difficult for you to understand this, but he was looking for his mate. What are you saying? His mate? Another Bigfoot? I mean, really? I mean, do I look like a lady Bigfoot to you? I know some people are desperate and all, but no. Gently objects John while trying to maintain his usual decorum. Then you're not just suggesting, describes Bailey, holding her hand to her chest as if she was going to be violated. No, Miss Wilder, not that either, states John with conviction as he gives an annoyed look at Captain John. Then what? You're not making any sense, says Bailey, both annoyed and befuddled by all of this. Forgive us, says John. Please allow us to explain to you slowly. I'm sure you'll understand this matter fuller if we take it slow. First of all, Miss Wilder, your abduction was not an accident. The animal wanted his mate, but could not find her. He chose to settle for you. You keep saying that. I don't understand. Why me? Asked Bailey in disbelief with growing antagonist. You see, Miss Wilder, as the planet was shaking with explosions, the animals needed to escape, not them, as they had done in times past, to return back to Earth. It needed you. Do you understand? It was nothing personal, states Dean Fitzpatrick as he nervously runs his hand over his facial hairs and the circle of his older perimeter of his long, semi-square face. No, I can't say that I do. I also don't understand why it was me. Why not Boxy? Or for that matter, why not Baby Doll? Or even one of the guys? Well, says Dean with a slow forethought, we believe it's because of your particular superpower matrix. Your timeout character and her powers are unique to the others. They work on a complete different system. Bailey shakes her head and says, wait, I gotta sit down now. This is too much. I'm feeling a little weak right now. Bailey drops herself into a chair and she expected making a loud noise and catching the attention of Joelle in the next room. Joelle pokes her head out and yells out, Are you okay, Bailey? Bailey exhales a breath of air as she responds, especially cheery, I'm fine, dear. Just a few more minutes and we'll be done. Joelle doesn't respond at first, but nods with doubtful enthusiasm as she slowly leaves the room, not taking her eyes off them. With renewed interest, Bailey responds curiously, Please explain this superpower matrix things to me. I don't think I understand what you mean. Dean clears his throat, scowls his face to forebode seriousness, and explains tiredly, Your superhero matrix allows the dimension to bend and sling forward like a rubber band. You see, when you're time out and you run very fast, it's the effect of being slung forward. When you freeze time, it's really the same matrix, except you're in a dimensional bend inside the matrix bubble. Bailey doesn't say a word, and John can tell by the look on her face that she doesn't really understand what Dean is telling her. He speaks up in part to save her from the awkward moment of asking, Do you have any other powers besides those two? Yes, the collar around my neck on my power suit made a clear bubble around my head. It protected me from gas, smoke, and even water. Bailey smiles guiltily and admits, it always keeps my hair nice, very nice. I rather like that. Concluding with a bashful grin, an bashful old lady grin. Well, says Dean, that provision was not directly put in the matrix. That was something added independently from it. Do you understand all of this? Not really, admits Bailey, but it doesn't really it doesn't really matter. My question is still the same. Why me? Dean speaks up and says, because you were the only one that was compatible to Sasquatch at the time and place. Me? Only me? Asked Bailey in disbelief. Well, actually, pauses John as he admits, not just you. There was one other that could have filled that role. Who? Asked Bailey quickly. John looks at Dean and says, as if breaking his normal Myrmidonian demeanor, as he says softly and pointedly, "We should tell her." Dean says, "No, it's not necessary, John." Dean looks at Bailey and says, "You really don't need to be troubled by all this anymore, do you? You do trust me, don't you, Miss Wilder?" "Well, I don't. Sorry," she says with an understanding smile that is both charming and disarming. Dean steps back in surprise, not expecting this kind of answer. "Now tell me some of those little details of yours that I really don't need to be bothered with," she says. "Then we can build on this quality of trust that you so desperately want me to have with you." Dean moves his fist to his mouth and puckers his brow in indecision. Moments later, Dean's face betrays timidity as he mildly scolds her and says, "You're not going to like it." "I don't like it now, and I don't know anything about any of this. Tell me now, or you can forget the whole thing," Bailey says firmly while looking over the top of her glasses. "All right," mildly protests Dean just under his breath as he looks at Captain John Leroy Seifert to answer. John nods and replies, "Shadow shooter." Bailey is somewhat ambivalent to this information and doesn't quite understand why this is such a big deal to them. Without exploring this answer any further, she's uncertain how to respond. "Miss Wilder, would you please come with us back to the lake? I think you will understand more on what we are saying and how we will be able to rescue your family and the others." Dean looks seriously at John with intrigue in how masterfully he is baiting her along. John's wisdom about holding back some of the details impresses Dean to no end. John has once again proved that he is a real captain to Dean. Bailey looks at the serenity of John's soft blue eyes and his thick, wavy, silver gray hair that reminded her of her husband, Judge, and feels that this is a man she can trust. But Dean, on the other hand, was much different. Her instinct about him was someone not to trust and to be careful with giving him too much information. Bailey looks at John and says, "Okay, let me go and tell Joel first, and I'll go with you. Meet me out front so I can get some personal items." And Chapter 2, Bailey and Bigfoot. Next episode.